In episode 2, Alina threatens Sturmond, threatens to destroy his ship, threatens everybody on it, but he tells her, relax. I'm not handing you over to the Fjordans. But you are valuable, and I didn't say I wouldn't hand you over to the Shu, or the Kirch for that matter. Quite frankly, I think the Fjordans are undervaluing you. And Alina says, you're right, because you could ask the King of Ravka for twice as much. Sturmond then switches gears a little bit, telling her that the recent reports are the First Army have turned their sights on Grisha. And it's all thanks to what Kurgan and her did with the Fold. She snaps back that her and the Darkling were not partners, and when she tears down the Fold, she'll prove to the world what she really is. He's kind of taken aback at the idea of tearing down the Fold, and he asks for her plan, and she says, I'm going to find the Sea Whip. This adventure is just too much for Sturmond to pass up, so he agrees to help him out. Now it's just a matter of finding the Sea Whip, and that's where Maul comes in. After all, he is the tracker. And up until this point, he hasn't really liked Sturmond too much, but Sturmond takes a liking to him because of the fact that he's really good at the job. So Maul and Sturmond sit down and chart a course to find the Sea Whip, but that's going to take some time. That allows Alina to get acquainted with some of the crew on Sturmond's ship. And what she's amazed at is the fact that it is all walks of life. It's Grisha, it's First Army, it's Second Army, it's everybody working together, united. Alina meets a brother-sister combination named Tolia and Tamar. They're Shu, but she finds out they're also Grisha. They admit to her that they don't really do that, but in Ravka they would be called Heartrenders. What they really are is two badasses who are a good time. She tells her new friends her plan on going and getting the Sea Whip, using it as an amplifier, just like she did with the Stag. She used to have dreams of the Stag, now she's having dreams of the Sea Whip and the Firebird. What she thinks is they're all to be connected, through her. If she can do that, she can destroy the Fold. Once the ship comes within a pretty close distance of the island where they think the Sea Whip is located, Sturmond brings his entire crew downstairs and shows them all the weaponry. And that is when Maul gets really excited, because these weapons are something that he's never seen before. That's because Sturmond invented most of them. Everybody's armed up, they're ready to take the Sea Whip down, but that's when Alina says, no, don't. That's not what I did with the Stag. I think I can absorb its powers without having to kill it. And Sturmond thinks that that is nuts, but Alina is the client in this situation, so he's willing to try to catch it. A short while later, they head into a cave on this island. They're looking for the Sea Whip, and it doesn't take long for the Sea Whip to announce its presence by killing a guy. That's when those nets that they wanted to use to trap it go out the window, and now it's just a matter of killing it and surviving. It's actually Alina who ends up killing it, because there's no reasoning with this Sea Whip. Stag was cool. You'd hang out with the Stag, but the Sea Whip, he's got attitude problems, so she had to end its life. When they get back to the ship, they have a ceremony for everybody who passed away, and then they start going through the process of having Alina absorb the Sea Whip. When she absorbs the first scale into her body, it's as if she's seeing everything through the Sea Whip. So she's seeing Maul stand there. When she absorbs the second scale through her body, it's the same thing, but it's amplified, and now her powers are really starting to show. She starts glowing on the ship. It looks like she can't even contain her powers, and Maul goes and makes his way in and hugs her, and that's when she calms down a little bit. But the big thing is, the scales did take, so her powers should be amplified. Now it's just a matter of getting to East Ravka and then getting to the Fold. There's one person, though, that definitely does not want her to reach East Ravka and take down the Fold, and that is Kurgan. For the time being, he's taken up shop in a very large house, but the little palace it certainly is not. Looks like this place was just abandoned, which means it's a perfect place for Kurgan. Just like Alina, Kurgan is also having dreams, and Alina's in them. But in Alina's nightmares, Kurgan has the upper hand, and in Kurgan's nightmares, Alina has the upper hand. While Kurgan did survive the attack in the Fold, he's just not the same. Those shadow monsters live inside of him, but they also seem to be having an adverse effect. He's coughing up blood, or it's just a black tar-like substance. Whatever it is, it's not good. And on top of it, he's also dealing with really, really bad headaches. And while he likes his new shadow monster friends, he does want to be cured from these headaches. And he'd also like the scars on his face to go away. So he calls in Genya. Genya is terrified of this guy. She came with him only because of the fact that he was killing everybody who didn't. He set up shop at this place to really be a safe haven for Grisha. He's building a Grecian army. He's got scouts all over the area looking for them because currently they're being hunted. And that's the big concern for Genya. She's concerned for David. She wants to know if there's been any word regarding his safety, his whereabouts. Kerrigan tells her that if he lives, they'll find him. He then asks her to use her abilities to heal him, and she tries, but the scars just won't go away. It's weird. It's a problem that she's never had before. She then hears shrieking, and it's coming from the shadow monsters that live inside of Kerrigan. They're feeling threatened. He starts coughing up whatever that black stuff is, and he asks her to check the damage in his body. When she tries, though, one of the shadow monsters comes out and threatens her, scares the hell out of her, and has to be corralled by Kerrigan. When Jenny gets out of there, she is way more scared than when she entered, and she was terrified walking in. With Jenya failing to help him out, Kerrigan has to go the medical route, or the chemist route. One of the people that they saved is a kid named Vadim. Kerrigan explains to Vadim these headaches that he's having, how bad they are. And Vadim tells him that he can make him a serum and it'll be effective, but it will also be temporary. Vadim, however, tells Kerrigan that what he really thinks the issue is those shadow monsters. And legend has it that it can't be undone. There's no cure for it. It's considered an abomination of science, something called Merzost. Kerrigan, though, doesn't take too well to hearing that this thing can't be cured. So thinking quickly, Vadim says, well, I guess the only thing that could cure Merzost is more Merzost? If I could study it, I might be able to understand it more. I can't promise that I could reverse it, but Kerrigan cuts him off and says, oh, I'm not looking to reverse this. He then rides off to meet up with a woman named Fruji, who bows at his sheer presence. Fruji has been protecting something in the middle of the forest. It's a journal. Specifically, it's Morozova's journal. The same man who came up with the 4 amplifiers. The other thing that Fruji was protecting was his mother. He had sequestered her to a cave, and she's not too thrilled to see him. And then finally, over with Kaz, he knows that in order to take on Pekka Rollins, he's going to have more help. He heads to a club run by a guy named Per Haskell. Haskell runs his gang out of this particular club, and Kaz wants to hire these people. This particular gang would be perfect because all the members have been kicked out or shunned by every other crew in the barrel. But the guy isn't willing to go into business with Kaz. He's not willing to feel the wrath of Pekka Rollins. After striking out with Per, Kaz has to go meet up with Inej, Jesper, and also Nina. He does so at a restaurant. Inej has found out some more bad news. Pekka has blamed them for the death of a police officer. So now, on top of Pekka Rollins' guys looking for them, they also have every cop looking for them as well. They're all kind of concerned because they haven't heard Kaz's plan yet. They know that this runs deeper than just Kaz trying to get at a guy that runs the territory. This is personal for Kaz, but he doesn't tell anybody the whole reason why. Because as Nina points out, you could easily kill him. You could hire Jesper to shoot him, you could hire me. And while it is true, Kaz points out, yeah, but we wouldn't be able to clear our names if I did that. No, in order to take him down, he's going to have a leverage, which means he needs to know the scope of his business inside and out. One of the ways he's going to do that is have Jesper and Weiland track his personal driver just so they can get the schedule down. The other key is the accountant. If he can get to Pekka's accountant, a guy named Henrik von Pohl, then he can get access to his books, and that'll blow everything up. But that's going to require getting into the building, which is across the street, and that building is discreet. This accounting firm isn't H&R Block. They're used for people that want to be discreet. It's heavily guarded. It's not easy to get into. And that's when Nina comes back from getting food because she's got good news. She found out which office is Henrik's. She simply just asked the bartender. Now with this information, Inej is to scope out the building and see what they're dealing with. At night, they're going to try to get in. Inej meets up with Kaz on a rooftop and lets him know what they're dealing with in terms of how many guys. But she wants to know what Pekka Rollins did. Why is this so personal? And Kaz just won't tell her. A little while later, Kaz's plan goes into effect. Kaz drops in through a window as Nina sweet-talks the doorman outside for her to get in. And by sweet-talking, I mean she knocks him out. While this is going on, Jesper and Weiland are tailing Pekka's driver trying to get his schedule down. And the whole time, Jesper is acting like he doesn't know Weiland, even though they have a history. Inej, meanwhile, is on top of the building, keeping a lookout, making sure everything's okay. And to this point, everything's going according to plan. Kaz is able to get in the building. He starts looking for Henrik's books, and that's when Pekka comes out of the shadows. He knew something was going on when none of his men could find Kaz or his crew. He knew they couldn't show their faces at the clubs or the brothels in order to get intel on them. This was really the only place. He also lets Kaz know that he's formed some traps. The first one is for Inej. He hired a psychopath in order to get her and corral her and bring her back to the menagerie. The second one was for Jesper and Wyatt. And as for Kaz, there's guards outside of the door. The good news for Kaz, though, is that Pekka had no idea about the Heart Renderer. And she plays a big role because she knocks all of Pekka's men out, and this allows Kaz to grab the books and get out of there. But it's not like she's unscathed. She was shot in the process. Meanwhile, Inej was also able to escape this psychopath up top. Jesper and Wylan also escape because Jesper is just such a good shot. The group, who's a little banged up, meets in an abandoned cemetery. While some of them are banged up, ultimately, the mission was a success because they did get the books. At least that's the way that Kaz is looking at this. The rest of them are concerned about how all of this ends, because so far, it hasn't gone great. Either way, everybody files into a mausoleum, and they start patching each other up. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry, it'll be up in a day or two.